Hello and welcome to News Hour on Trust Television. I am Shafiu Suleiman. In the headlines, 3 grain traders have been abducted in Taraba State. Federal government to reciprocate travel ban against UK, Canada and Saudi Arabia. Journalists told to identify gaps and offer policy option to end gender-based violence. And in the foreign news, at least 4 dead, 6 missing after building collapses in Ravenusa, Italy. Now the news in detail. Government invade market, abduct 3 grains merchants, creating pandemonium at Pakri Grain Market in Bali local government area of Taraba State. Business activities is brought to a halt as traders abandon their wares and run to the nearby mountain and forest to hide. The invasion of the market by the kidnappers came 2 days after a retired senior civil servant and 3 others abducted by kidnappers at Ungwambaraya in Jalingo metropolis. Villages in Taraba State came under attack by gunmen suspected to be kidnappers, in which about 30 persons, including a district head of Amar, abducted. Areas that came under attacks of gunmen include part of Karim Lamido, Bali, Jalingo, Gasol, and Bali local government areas of the state. Spokesperson of Taraba Police Command, DSP Usman Abdullahi, confirmed the incident, but however said he will get more details from the Divisional Police Office of Bali on the attack in the grains market. And the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency NDLEA has arrested a Ghanaian and 2 Nigerians at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, NAIA, Abuja, and at the Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, respectively, for drug trafficking. NDLEA Director Media and Advocacy Femi Babafemi stated this on Sunday in Abuja that of the 9.953 kilograms of cocaine and methamphetamine were intercepted from the suspects. He stated that Uzo Johnson was arrested on Wednesday, December 8, during an inward screening of Ethiopian Airlines passengers at the arrival hall of the Ekanu Ibiam Airport. According to him, Johnson, who arrived from Brazil via Addis Ababa, was arrested with clothes impregnated with cocaine, which has a gross weight of 6.7 kilograms. In the same vein, another trafficker, 53-year-old Ude Charlie, was arrested at the Enugu airport for ingesting 72 wraps of cocaine weighing 1.253 kilograms. Babafemi said he was arrested on Friday, December 3rd, during outward screening of Ethiopian Airlines passengers going to Rome via Addis Ababa. In a related development, another trafficker, 25-year-old John Kaja, a Ghanaian, was arrested on Friday, December 3rd. Kaja is arrested with 2 kilograms of methamphetamine during an outward clearance of Qatar Airways from Abuja to Doha.
So, what is it?
I don't know, sir. I can't tell.
You bought the bag.
You can see the bag. It's a new bag. I bought the bag. I haven't. Look at how
Femi Babafemi, Director Media and Advocacy NDLEA, is joining us to discuss the latest arrest. Good to have you, Mr. Femi.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Good evening.
We talked about, the breakthrough, the arrest of this, traffickers, drug pushers by your agency. What does this really mean, looking at the Ghanaian who is arrested, and his Nigerian collaborator? What does this mean, to the fight against drug trafficking?
Yeah, what you would have seen with some of the instances in your report is the desperation by the traffickers, by the different drug cartels, either trying to take drugs out of the country of bringing drugs. Like in the case of Enugu, you will see attempts by two persons trying to bring in drugs into the country. And curiously, you will see a disingenuous way of concealment. That is getting clothes soaked in liquid cocaine, ironing with it, that is impregnating the cloth with cocaine, and packing the same in his traveling bag. And he was able to take that all the way up through the sheikhs from Brazil, through Addis Ababa, up to Enugu, and now flying straight to Enugu, which is an airport that is not as used as Lagos and Abuja. So obviously thinking that he will be able to escape our men, but unfortunately, because the agency is on the red alert, our men are vigilant, especially now that we know that there will be quite some rush, a lot of attempts to bring in drugs into the country. But even with that, even with the mode of concealment, we're still able to we're still able to intercept and arrest the trafficker. Again, looking at attempt to use a Ghanaian, probably that would also not raise our curiosity, but then that is from Abuja now. The young man, as you also showed in your video there, tried to conceal the drugs in a false bottom, well screwed, well packed. But unfortunately, with the aid of technology and human intelligence, we were also able to dictate that. And so, put together the drugs there, you would have just seen a situation where they're becoming more disingenuous because of their desperation, because
yes,
they've
yes,
not
Mr.
been able
Femi,
to come in.
you talked about the ingenuity, and the techniques and the specialization in terms of, how to hide some of these hard drugs by these drug barons. And Nigerians would perhaps appreciate your agency, if you like, for its milestone in recent times. A lot of arrests of drug barons and so on, which you've been, showing and running in the media. But Nigerians are also worried that we haven't seen much of conviction or prosecution, so to speak. What exactly is happening?
I can tell you when you talk of prosecution, we have over 90% success rate. Yeah, I'm hearing you. Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead, please.
Are you with me?
Very well. Go ahead.
In terms of prosecution, we have over 90% conviction rate. I can tell you that this year alone, we've had more than 5,000 cases filed in court, out of which more than 1,000 traffickers have been convicted already, serving jail terms, and more than 3,500 others are facing trial. I can tell you that every day we record convictions in our commands across the country, but then these things, we collate them like monthly or quarterly. Probably that's why you are not seeing the reports, because these things, we are talking of about 50 commands across the country. So that's why you may not be seeing them in the media unless we put them together ourselves. That's why you may not be seeing the reports like you are seeing reports of interdiction, arrest, and seizures. But I can tell you, we filed substantially more than 5,000 cases this year alone, and quite more than 1,000 of them are serving jail times, with more than 3,000 others trials ongoing as I speak with you.
Right. Talking about your efforts to clamp down on these drug barons and drug pushers, and you talked about local intelligence, how you are able to also extract intelligence to be able to nip this in the bud. Were you able to, or how is the NDLEA using this same local intelligence to perhaps track the destinations of some of these hard drugs?
Yeah, definitely. You see, for an interdiction, we don't just arrest the trafficker. We try to follow up to see other persons connected to that particular consignment. That also showing that, for instance, an instance is a recent one we had in Lagos. The drug came into the country from Brazil via Addis Ababa, and upon the arrest of the first person that came up to take the drug, through him, we're able to get about 5-6 others across in different parts of Lagos and Delta. But the big man behind the whole thing is hiding there in Brazil. So, but every of his full soldiers in Nigeria were able to get them, meaning that we don't in an operation, we don't just make one single arrest. We try as much as possible, and that is why you don't see us releasing statements every day on some of these arrests, because we allow the process to go through. We make sure that until the last person is arrested before we make this public, and that's why you will see we put these reports together almost weekly or every other day, as the case may be, just to allow our operatives follow up to the end of each of these cases. Definitely, we follow up, and that's why we've been able to we've been able to use that method also to get more than 6 barons in our net this year alone. That is huge, because if you know the way the cartels operate, the barons insulate themselves through quite a number of layers, so that you won't, even some of these traffickers don't even know who the baron is, because there are quite a number of layers to insulate the big man himself. But this year alone, we've been able to get more than 6 of them through this multiple arrests that we do. One in particular has been on the run for more than 10 years, and we got him this year. So we're doing quite a lot, and I can tell you that from the feedback we are getting from them through various sources, they are definitely feeling the heat. They are feeling frustrated. They are feeling angry, and they are blaming Marwa for their misfortune.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Femi Babafemi, Director, Media and Advocacy, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, for your insights on the News Hour. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Now, moving on, experts on gender-based violence have urged journalists to help in identifying the gaps and prompt action from policymakers that will end the menace. The experts speak at a media roundtable organized by women groups held in Bauchi. Adamu Imam completes the report.
Mrs. Helen John, an activist, says the recent estimate stated that nearly 1 in 3 women aged 15 years and above around the globe have been subjected to physical or sexual violence by an intimate partner and non-partner at least once in their lifetime, says it is time to buttress to end the menace.
State like Bauchi, the state government have been benevolent enough to pass a law that has to do with violence against persons prohibition law in Bauchi State.
Black Afsa, a media partner, noted with dismay that women are the prime target, hence the need for total collaboration in that aspect.
For the participants, because we are media persons, I would love that when we've been able to get here, we'll also go out there and then educate the populace more, so that way we'll have a freer and a better society.
Participants during the media roundtable asked critical questions and agreed to sustain the tempo while engaging opinion leaders as well.
For the public to open up, to come forward and say their case. It's no longer their case, as the legal practitioner rightly said here, that a gender-based violence case, especially rape case, is no longer a case of the family but a state case.
The women groups also said the media is critical stakeholder to gender-based issues and prevention by educating the publics about their legal rights. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
Federal government has threatened to ban travelers and airlines from Canada, the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia and Argentina if they do not take Nigeria off their red lists. Reacting to the development, Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika said those countries will be out on the red lists not later than Tuesday if they do not remove Nigeria from the list of banned countries. It said the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 has met and reviewed the various travel bans placed on Nigerian citizens and concluded that the ban was unacceptable. The countries had included Nigeria among nations restricted over the Omicron COVID variant. Meanwhile, the ban imposed on Nigeria and some other African countries has triggered backlash, with many demanding a review of the action, while the countries which took the action have refused to budge. Dr. Sadia Gumi is a Nigerian medical practitioner based in the UK, and she joins us live to discuss travel restriction. Thank you for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, the travel ban, on Nigeria by UK and certainly, affects Nigerians in a negative way, with businesses to attend in the UK. And Nigeria is now threatening to also ban travel from UK to Nigeria. How will this affect people like you living in the UK?
Right. Since the beginning of it, travel.
Doctor, are you there?
Really. Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So I said, since the beginning of COVID, we know travel in general has been very unpredictable. So we're hoping that, things will settle, we're able to travel. And now the festive season's coming, I'm sure a lot of, let's say, Nigerians will want to go back home to visit their families. With this ban, it might not be possible. One thing I kind of don't want really is still local to engage in a tit-for-tat response without a scientific justification. So if you can take here from the UK, and I think, okay, yes, I work for the NHS, I can see where they're coming from, because already we're seeing quite a lot of, people with COVID with the Omicron variant. It's highly severe symptoms, but almost every day the numbers are increasing. I think just of yesterday there were almost about 600, and about 6 days ago they said 16% of those with the Omicron in Nigeria. So I can kind of see where they're coming from, and if numbers are increasing and we don't know how severe it's going to be, they wouldn't want. And as we know, Nigerians, maybe only 2% have been vaccinated. And I guess previously also there are reports coming in with maybe fake COVID negative results or vaccination reports. So I think they just don't want to take chances. And obviously, it looks actually targeting more African countries. I think they're just trying to maybe play it safe in a way.
Right.
So Nigeria
Doctor,
have to,
looking at the threat coming from the Nigerian government, and perhaps several calls on the UK and other countries who have listed Nigeria in the red list, to rescind. Some of you in the UK, Nigerians who are directly affected by this sort of diplomatic row, how are you looking at the issue, and what are you doing in terms of mobilization, and what does it take, for instance, to get the UK government to rescind?
I think, most of these things are, there might be some kind of political things, involved with it. So as a doctor, we can only advise, say, that most Nigerians would, maybe take their vaccinations, and they should have genuine certificate when they're coming in. And again, if they follow all the regulations, I don't really see a reason why the UK should stop Nigerians from coming. So they're doing all the checks at the airport and making sure everyone finds and their negative code. So I think it's more maybe the Nigerian government putting pressure. So maybe if they try banning UK coming citizens going to Nigeria, they might rethink and maybe reconsider. So that's
Okay,
what I would
now
say.
looking at the situation, I'm also coming at a festive period, so to speak, with the Christmas around the corner. A number of Nigerians perhaps would want to travel from the UK back home and all of that. What are do they have options? What are they actually planning? Looking at this challenge.
So I would say, I think in general, maybe people, you already know if you're traveling, there's a lot of, it's very unpredictable because of, so many things changing, not just to Nigeria, like the other time somebody wanted to go to New Mexico for a wedding and they had to just cancel it at the last minute. So I think anybody that is planning traveling, I think they have to just be careful. Is it worth, and there are, the what do you call it, the airlines, sometimes they would refund you money. So yes, you could try, but I don't see any way out of it at the moment because, this Omicron, nobody reads and people are already panicking about it. So I think I'm hoping before Christmas, if they see that, yes, symptoms are not that severe, even if you get it, you're not really getting so unwell, they might try to reverse this. So that's what I'm hoping.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sadia Gumi, for talking to us, a Nigerian-born medical practitioner operating in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Now, moving on, persons with disability in Abuja have urged the federal government to sensitize the public on the Discrimination Against Persons Living with Disability Act to ensure total inclusion in the society. The met is called during a national summit of persons with disabilities in Abuja. Trust TV's Maridia Omar reports.
The summit attracted members of the National Assembly, international NGOs and relevant stakeholders from across the world to discuss how to change the narrative for persons with disabilities in Nigeria. Some persons with disability at the summit speak on some of the challenges they face in the society.
Once our community member notice that I'm different, they will help me with scorn, view me with scorn as if I am not perfect person as them. This to me is very painful and a challenge because myself, I'm married with children, I'm a house owner, even more than those who are making a mockery of my disability. And as a landlord within my area now, there is at World Community Development Association meeting. I was relegated to the background on account of my differences. This is a the commission to act. They need to be more punitive. It's the only solution for us to enjoy the benefit of the recent prescribed bill on the person with disability.
So many persons have looked down on me because of my skin color, and before now, it has really bring me down. It has affected me psychologically, and somehow it affected me. I use the word hard because it's no longer the inferiority complex. But with exposure, I grew out of it, and I believe people are more enlightened nowadays because I face less of it nowadays.
Great. Facing discrimination, doing what you ought to do but you can't do it, and so many other things. If I have to say, here the time will not be enough for me to tell you what I have passed through being a person with disability. But hopefully we are managing and coping with the situation. God's willing, all is well.
And you will agree with me that in line with the SDGs mantra of leave no one behind, it was important or has become important as a matter of fact that more and more people are conversant with the realities that persons with disabilities face in the country, especially like Nigeria and around the world. They are the most marginalized socially. They have very limited, if any, access to proper education, to employment opportunities, and they are at the receiving end of most of the prejudices that the society has. And so a summit like this gives us an opportunity to, drum up widespread support and sensitization around the issues surrounding disability, and then see a way that the society can come together and form a structure that is equitable, sustainable, and inclusive for every person with disability.
The National Commission for Persons with Disabilities said that soon the enforcement of accessibility minimum standard in our public buildings will begin, calling on all public building holders at the federal, state and local council level to stick to the building code because the enforcement will begin in the next 2 years. Mardia Umar, Trust TV News, Abuja.
You're still watching News Hour on Trust Television. Coming up after the break, sanitary pad use and recycling techniques. Stand by for this and more shortly. Welcome back. Now a look at some of our top stories. National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency NDLEA has arrested a Ghanaian and 2 Nigerians at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, NAIA Abuja, and at the Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, respectively, for drug trafficking. We also told you the federal government has threatened to ban travelers and airlines from Canada, the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia and Argentina if they do not take Nigeria off their red lists. Now moving on to other news stories. As Nigeria continues to face security threats, economic hardship and endemic corruption, the judiciary must leap above the challenges so as to continue to play a stabilizing role in the country's democracy. Stakeholders during a lecture organized by Nambese Lawyers Forum in Yenagua, Bayelsa State Capital, in memory of late Justice Ambrose Alagwa, made the resolution. The report.
The former Attorney General of the Federation, Kanwa Gabi San, said there is little the judiciary can do to help a country where disobedience to the rule of law, electoral law and lack of equal opportunities for Nigerians confront government at all levels. Agabi said the country's democracy has been characterized by assimilation of the opposition parties, which has given rise to a culture of praise singing. He said government at all levels must realize that constructive opposition is essential for the growth of democracy and efficient judiciary, hence the need for the country to run a constructive and transparent government to restore active opposition.
The assimilation of the opposition has been aided and facilitated by the fact that the legislature, instead of operating along party lines, has often operated as a faction.
Speaking further, The former Attorney General said the judiciary cannot cope if the country persists in fighting falsehood with falsehood, vice with vice, and violence with violence, stating that for democracy to thrive, there's the need for equal opportunities to all Nigerians. Chairman of the Nembese Lawyers Forum, Ayabasi Beradugo, stressed the essence of the program.
To inspire us, the young and the old, individually and collectively, in the practice and aspirations of the law, justice, leadership, and community service. Our plan and intention is to make this lecture an annual event by inviting leading figures and legal personalities to deliver the memorial lecture to advance public understanding not only of the life and times of our hero, but also to instigate public conversation around topical issues of law, human rights, and development.
Wife of the late legal luminary, Lady Francisca Alagoa, and other participants commended the extraordinary roles he played to denounce lawlessness, protect human rights, and uphold the rule of law under military dictatorship.
I will say, today is the day that our Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in him. This is a long-expected event. Members, lawyers, God bless you all. God bless you all. You put smiles on my face. You added more years to my life.
Daddy has been a blessing to us. And one of the things he believed there's ability in disability. He never believed in pity party, him and our lovely mommy. And I will tell you sincerely, they love us so much. Most of us are in the higher institution.
Legal practitioners at the lecture said since Nigeria became independent in 1960, the country has never been governed democratically for more than 22 years at a stretch until the inception of the Fourth Republic in 1999.
A joint vehicle verification committee has commenced a verification exercise in Kebbi State to fish out vehicles without proper documentation. In the course of the exercise, vehicles including cars, trucks, motorcycles and tricycles are expected to be screened to determine their documentation and roadworthiness. The report.
With the end of the year fast approaching and the ongoing efforts by government across the country to ensure a secure society both before, during and after the oncoming festivities, in Kebbi State, stakeholders have commenced a rigorous vehicle verification exercise with a view to checkmating the infiltration of unlicensed vehicles into the state. The exercise, which was jointly conducted by the police, Federal Road Safety, vehicle inspection officers and the staff of the judiciary in Kebbi State, focused on ensuring that all vehicles plying roads in the state are properly licensed and roadworthy. This includes private and commercial vehicles, as well as motorcycles. The exercise, according to the chairman of the Joint Exercise Committee, Alhaji Ilyasu Azikajega, was part of a security strategy being adopted in Kebbi State to formally identify all vehicles within the state, as well as those coming in or just passing through. He further said so far the committee has been able to fish out vehicle owners of questionable character, as well as assisted in detecting stolen vehicles in the course of the exercise.
So because there's a lot of reports coming to our office and the was stolen, we do receive from all over the nations, specifically to the nation, Lagos State, they do send making to inquire who owns this number. So we do send this DSS and whatever, they do send just to find out. So what we find in our system, we may come across that maybe it's a stolen vehicle. That number has belonged to Y and Z. It's not belong to C and Z. So this is all the way we are doing to ensure that there's correctness of people to register their listing formally.
The exercise was, however, not without incidents, as not all motorists agreed to be verified, with some of them putting up a resistance in the effort to get away from the prying eyes of the committee members. Efforts by Trust TV to speak to some of the defaulters apprehended by the members of the committee, however, proved abortive, with none of them agreeing to speak on camera. Hamza Galadi Mazuru, Trust TV News from Birnin Kebbi.
In an effort to empower women in Plateau State and to further nip the sufferings of crisis victims in the bud, a non-governmental organization has intensified their outreach to the vulnerable. The initiative began their empowerment program in Congo, Russia area of Jos North local government area of Plateau State, where Jos crisis first broke out from in the year 2001, which spread to other parts of the state since then. Speaking to Trust TV during the outreach, the coordinator, Bridget Dakes, said a fundamental aspect of the empowerment program is training women on sanitary pad production and reuse techniques, stressing that a sanitary pad is a fundamental aspect of women's health need since it is often required during their monthly cycle. Dixon Adama has more.
Program with Women for Women International. They came into our community to help women in handwork and to see how they will develop a woman and to be a responsible person in a society. Like in our community, now that we have been involved in so many crises, our community is a flashpoint area in Jos North local government, and we are picking up. We have so many challenges as a woman in this community, challenges of maybe losing your loved ones, losing maybe even your husband at the cause of the crisis. But Women for Women did it fit to come to this community to see that they help women to start something tangible, and they should acquire skill, and we are going to
support ourselves. But with this program, I think we can support ourselves very much.
The entire concept of this project is to train women on how to reproduce reusable sanitary pads, not just to produce it, but to package it and brand it to make it fit for market consumption. So we're training these women because we have, with the ever-increasing financial challenges that women are facing, a lot of women are out of businesses. We have come to empower women through the production and sale of these reusable sanitary pads, and to also enlighten women to get aware about what happens around their bodies and reproductive system. So we are going to talk today with this women in our empowerment and awareness campaign. Today's program is entirely on awareness. It's an awareness campaign with the distribution of reusable sanitary pads, and also awareness about what goes on in their system.
Congo, Russia, in Jos North, the Plateau State capital, where the crisis of 2001 began from, and since then the state has been involved in several skirmishes and crises and ethno-religious violence. However, the Women for Women initiative, NGO, came here to empower the women in several ways, how to take care of themselves health-wise, making use of reusable sanitary pads and all of that. Because their thinking is that whenever there's crisis, the women and children suffer the most. That's why they are here to begin to empower the women across the ethno-religious divides.
River State Governor Nyesom Wike says the federal government inadvertently promotes corruption whenever it allows paltry sums of money in its yearly budget for a project instead of the entire money required to complete such projects within the agreed time. The governor made the observation while speaking at the inauguration of the GRA Junction Flyover project in Port Harcourt. The report.
I don't like the word variation. And the one, it is not in my dictionary. That is where you see corruption. People, that's why when they see federal government budget, how can you award a job of 60 billion? Then in the budget of the year, you put 2 billion. What kind of contract is that? A contract of 60 billion, then what you see in that year is 2 billion. Why would that not be variation? That job will last in the next 10 years.
Ahead of 2023 general elections, Governor Wike stated that days were gone when politicians give excuses to cover up their lack of leadership capacity. He said that the quality projects executed in the state are sufficient testament to electorate in the state to continue to vote for the People's Democratic Party when the election comes. Performing the project inauguration, legal luminary and human rights activist Mike Ozekome said Governor Wike has, through the execution of numerous infrastructural projects, demonstrated transparency and accountability in the management of the resources of Rivers State.
Time has passed when politicians will come and make promises to the people, and then after the people have voted them in, you hear excuses and excuses and excuses. Ours is different. Every project must be funded. If there's no money, no award of a project. Some politicians told me that why not reduce your hand? That the election is coming. So what is that? Your campaign for election is not the money you spend. Your campaign for election is the projects you have executed. That is what it's supposed to be. Not to keep money to go and buy security people, buy INEC. No. Put the money here. The people will look at it. When you come to you ask them, did I not tell you I would do this? Yes. Did I do it? Yes. So they will be with you. Like those people who will bring their money and give security men and INEC, you see that they will fail. So anybody not taking over from us, know that we have campaigned for the person. The campaign is over.
This chair will fly over the gate that is being built by Governor Nyesom Wike, and he has assured us that by January and February we will have 2 other fly over, and then making them 10 within 2 years, just between 2019 and now.
The governor vowed not to abandon the Trans-Calabari Road despite attempts by some hoodlums who kidnapped workers handling the multi-billion naira project.
You're watching News Hour on Trust Television. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's do some business with Aisha Salihu, who will be taking us through some business news.
World Bank has called on the federal government to impose special taxes on alcohol, cigarettes, and sugar-sweetened beverages to improve primary health care. The World Bank Country Director for Nigeria, Shubham Chowdhury, made the call in Abuja during the Special National Council on Health meeting organized by the Federal Ministry of Health on Friday. He said to improve healthcare in Nigeria, there is the need to tax the things that harm the people, adding that the economic rationale for taxing the products is strong to save lives and make a better and healthier Nigeria. Chowdhury noted that taxes on tobacco, alcohol and sugar-sweetened beverages would reduce the health risks associated with their consumption and expand fiscal space for universal health coverage. Central Bank of Nigeria says banks' gross credit to the Nigerian economy has risen to 23.5 trillion naira in November this year. The CBN stated this in a new report that it strengthened the loan-to-deposit ratio policy, which the bank said had resulted in significant rise in loans provided by financial institutions. According to the report, the total gross credit rose by over 21.1% over the past year, from 19.4 trillion naira to 23.5 trillion naira, also creating a 50 billion naira target credit facility for affected households and small and medium enterprises through Nelsar Microfinance Bank, against which 363.5 billion naira had been disbursed to over 767,000 Nigerian households and micro-businesses. It added that it mobilized key stakeholders in the Nigerian economy under the private sector coalition against COVID-19 team that raised 39.64 billion naira to support the fight against the scourge. Minister of Communication and Digital Economy Issa Pantami says the startup bill that is currently before the Federal Executive Council will accelerate the growth of small and new technology firms in Nigeria when enacted into law. The minister stated this at the Art of Technology Lagos 3.0 themed Funding and Connected Lagos. Speaking virtually, he said the ministry would continue to support the state in its quest to achieve more in the technology space. He said technology deployment is changing the world, with the information and communications technology sector playing a crucial role in the country's exit from recession, adding that from traffic management to security, the state is deploying technology to make life better for the people.
Gas explosion caused multiple residential buildings to collapse on the Italian island of Sicily. Let's join Aisha Haruna for more on news and the foreign scene.
At least 4 people have been killed after a gas explosion caused multiple residential buildings to collapse on the Italian island of Sicily. Authorities on Sunday said 2 women were rescued alive from the rubble in the southern town of Ravanusa after the collapse on Saturday night. Sicily's regional civil protection unit says rescuers and a drone have been deployed to locate the missing. Head of firefighters in the province of Agrigento, Giuseppe Merendino, said the gas probably found a cavity in which to accumulate and was triggered accidentally. He said investigations are on. About 50 people have been displaced due to the incident. British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says Russia faces massive consequences if it invades Ukraine. Speaking at a meeting of top diplomats from the G7 nations in the northern English city of Liverpool, Truss said London is considering all options on how to respond if Russia invades Ukraine, highlighting that the UK has used economic sanctions in the past to send diplomatic messages to Moscow. Ukraine is at the center of a crisis in East-West relations as it accuses Russia of massing tens of thousands of troops in preparation for a possible large-scale military offensive. US intelligence assesses that Russia could be planning a multi-front offensive on Ukraine as early as next year, involving up to 175,000 troops. Meanwhile, the Kremlin denies its plans to invade and says the West is gripped by Russophobia. Moscow says the expansion of NATO threatens Russia and has contravened assurances given to it as the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Thousands of people have rallied in Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, urging their government not to sign any kind of debt restructuring deal with the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Protesters gathered at Buenos Aires' Plaza de Mayo carrying placards that read, "No to a deal with the IMF." One of the organizers of the rally, Carlos Aznares, says they are protesting because the International Monetary Fund will only bring them more misery and more dependency, adding that they are headed for disaster if they sign the agreement. Argentina's government is in the midst of negotiations with the IMF to restructure $44 billion that it owes the Global Fund. Residents of the Pacific Territory of New Caledonia have voted to remain part of France in a third referendum that was boycotted by pro-independence groups. In a televised address, French President Emmanuel Macron said the New Caledonia will remain French as they decide that freely. Police reinforcements have been sent to the territory known as the Pebble, which is of strategic importance to France and is part of a wider tussle for influence in the Pacific between Western countries and China. The archipelago of about 185,000 voters, 2,000 kilometers east of Australia, was granted 3 independence referendums under a 1988 deal aimed at easing tensions on the islands. A Supreme Court justice in Brazil has ruled that all travelers arriving in the country must show proof of vaccination against COVID-19. The decision from Luis Roberto Barroso challenges a more lenient rule announced by the government, which is opposed to mandatory immunization against the virus that can cause COVID-19. In a ruling on a petition filed by the Sustainability Network Party, Barroso said monitoring the quarantine of thousands of travelers will be too difficult and will put Brazilians at risk. The justice said the requirement for proof of vaccination could be waived only when the traveler comes from a country where no vaccines are available or the individual was prevented from vaccination due to health reasons. More than 616,000 people have died of COVID-19 in Brazil, the country with the second most deaths from the disease.
Report just reaching us says Nigeria Football Federation NFF has relieved Super Eagles coach General of his job with immediate effect. In his place, NFF appoint Augustine Igbabon as interim technical advisor. Details will come to you in our subsequent bulletins. Now for more on the sporting scene, Murdia Umar is on standby.
Ogenyonazi has terminated his contract with Turkish club Denizlispor by mutual consent for the second time. The former Lazio midfielder said the club owes him 4 months' salaries before his departure. According to Onazi, failed promises and lack of respect led to his exit from the club. And on to women's football, Nigeria's Falconets have advanced to the 4th round of the 2022 Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers. The Confederation of African Football confirmed this in a statement after Democratic Republic of Congo withdrew ahead of the second leg in Lagos due to travel challenges. In the first leg played last Sunday, Christopher Danjuma-led team won 4-0 away. And now to the Premier League. Leicester City left Newcastle still rooted in the league relegation zone with a 4-0 thrashing of the Magpies on Sunday, while West Ham's Champions League ambitions were dented by a 0-0 draw at Burnley. Despite being hit by a coronavirus outbreak that left Brendan Rodgers without 7 players, the Foxes gave Eddie Howe another reminder of the task he faces to keep Newcastle in the top flight as Yuri Talisman struck twice at the King Power Stadium. Howe will be able to call on the resources of the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund in the January transfer window, and results elsewhere this weekend mean they remain just 3 points adrift of safety. Newcastle will face Liverpool, Manchester City and Manchester United in their next 3 games, and on this form will be lucky to escape that run without another severe hit to their goal difference. And away from football, Folashade Lawal on Saturday won the 7th gold medal for Team Nigeria in the ongoing International Weightlifting Federation IWF World Championships and Commonwealth Games qualifiers in Uzbekistan. Lawal won Commonwealth Championships gold medal in the 59 kg category of women's competition with a total lift of 207 kg. She is currently placed 6th at the World Championships. The IWF Championship is a qualification event for the 4th Commonwealth Games next year in England. A total of 7 lifters are representing Nigeria at the championship, and the event is to end on the 17th of December in Uzbekistan. League management company says the Sani Abacha Stadium, Kano, Kwara Sports Complex in Ilori and the Bako Kotongwara Stadium in Mina are not fit to host matches in the 2021 and 2022 Nigeria Professional Football League season. The league management company, during their extraordinary General Assembly meeting, approved the December 17 kick-off date for the league. It will serve as a huge blow for players who had been hoping to return to their traditional ground this season after playing the 2020-2021 campaign at the Ahmadu Bello Stadium in Kaduna. The teams affected by the LMC decision have been told to look for another venue before the resumption of the league. And finally, Guinness Federation on Sunday announced that Kaba Diawara, who had spells for Arsenal and West Ham, will coach the country at the African Cup of Nations next year. The vice president of a crisis committee set up by the Guinean Federation, Sega Diallo, made the announcement adding that Diawara will lead the team into the African Cup of Nations, which takes place in Cameroon between January 9 and February 6. The 45-year-old French-born former Guinea international took over temporarily after the sack of French coach Didier Six when Guinea failed to qualify for the 2022 World Cup.
Now, before we go, here is a kicker. In the backyard of a suburban home, a small family has a thriving agricultural business, proving that, thanks to new techniques, inner-city farming is not only possible, it can also be profitable. Let's take a look.
This actually started as my mom experimenting. It was more of her just, testing her curiosity and trying to farm with something that she doesn't need a lot of space and doesn't need a lot of land. And through research, we came across hydroponic farming, and from that we have slowly grown since 2017 into building, something that we learned online and doing it physically. Losing crops. So right now a lot of farmers in Zimbabwe face the cold phase where a lot of their crops were affected because it was very cold. But with this farming you don't have that because you're not using soil, you're not affected by the cold, the greenhouse protects that, you're not affected by a lot of diseases and insects. At the moment, our project, we have per cycle about 4,500 plants per growing cycle. Prior to COVID, we were making about $1,500 per month. However, with COVID-19 that has taken over and restaurants being closed down and lockdown, it has really affected our revenue, and we're now making about plus or minus half the amount that we used to make prior to COVID-19 hitting us.
And that ends News Hour on Trust Television. I'm Shafiur Suleiman. Many thanks for staying with us.